Are you a high achieving woman, a leader, maybe a visionary, maybe a mom holding everything together with all the responsibilities you have in life? And lately, it feels like you are running on fumes, you have depleted energy, your body feels heavy, and you really just sort of lack luster for life. Well, I'm here to talk to you about burnout. It was something that I've experienced several years ago, still coming out of more than 3 years later, but the early signals I did not see. And so it's really made it a passion for me to speak and talk about not only from the education that I had, but the actual lived experience, because that, my friends, is unfortunately, sometimes we wait till crisis before we act. And so I want to talk about brain inflammation first. It's one of the early signs and symptoms that I had, although I didn't see it at the time. A lot of brain fog, lack of concentration, couldn't multitask like I used to. Actually, I couldn't even handle email notifications or phone calls. If I'd see certain numbers come up on the phone, that could put me into an absolute panic. And so brain inflammation was one of those very first things that we looked at, or neuroinflammation. And I had to use very targeted supplementation geared towards your mitochondria. You may remember the powerhouses of the cells, or they're in every cell of your body. They produce ATP, which what is that? That is food, and oxygen is what you need to make that ATP. So we started with really, foods that bone broth, meals that maybe were only like 1 or 2 ingredients, maybe just chicken and some green beans, or very, very bland things for me. Now, this was my story. It may not be yours. And then we did that targeted supplementation. What I learned about this is that you have these, they're called microglia, but just think of these immune soldiers in your body that are always scanning for danger in the brain. And if they are primed, then that can set you up for future incidences of inflammation, and it can happen much quicker. So it can be physical insults to the brain. It could also be high emotional incidents that happen. Of course, it could be trauma, it could be chronic stress. And once those microglia are primed, like I said, as you move forward and then life happens, right? Different things happen in life, then you're more susceptible. So I had to start out first with the looking at that neuroinflammation and trying to bring energy into my system. And I'm going to look at a note here. Part of this recovery is organization and memory. Still working on those things. So some of the symptoms of neuroinflammation you may see, of course, is the brain fog and forgetfulness, decision fatigue, depression, or an emotional flatness. I remember saying, I feel like I'm here, but not really. Clumsiness or delayed reactions. So when your brain is detecting a threat, what we need to do is start looking at ways to increase our neuroplasticity. And we now know that is the way that we can start to rewire our brain. And how do we do that? I have what I call like a burnt, not broken freedom method. And that's going to bring in a lot of things like rest, nutrition, mindset, nervous system, resilience, techniques, and different things like that. But for today, the message is that inflammation. And so take a look. I have different assessments, but are you experiencing any of those symptoms? Do you feel burned out, fatigued, and like you don't have anything left? If so, comment freedom below and we can talk further.